Hello, friends, and welcome back to our SBT Sutra Studies class. My name is Venerable Tarpa. Before we begin our class, let's take a moment to appreciate our kind and handsome community gathered here today. Today, I feel fortunate to sit as a member of this kind community in the safety and security of like-minded friends, sharing this present moment with others dedicated to the cultivation of goodness. Today, I'm grateful for the direction and support that this community provides, a community worthy of my time and commitment, a community where my efforts have meaning, purpose, and are appreciated. Today, I'm thankful for this community of awakening, a place to gain the knowledge and skills to improve my life, a family, a home, and a sanctuary for all of us seeking refuge from the storm. And let's remember, as conscientious practitioners, we must recognize our responsibility to the world, to strive to live skillfully while helping others to do the same, to strive to live in balance and harmony with nature and others, to strive to gain mastery over our minds and embody our true benevolent nature, to expand our hearts and minds, transcending our shared human limitations, to not intentionally harm sentient life or our planet, to maturely accept and embrace the reality of our situation while striving to improve it. Again, welcome back to our SBT Sutra Studies class. We are currently examining the Dhammapada for those who are new. Today, we are going to be covering chapter 15 entitled Happiness, and we are more than halfway through the text, so that's exciting. With that said, let's get started. I'm going to put some things on screen for us here. So I thought that this chapter is a bit short. It kind of reads nicely. It's interesting that it's titled differently in each text. Gaiden Sherpa calls it joy. Buddha Rakita calls it happiness, and Gil Fransdale calls it happiness. So that was interesting. We have some great readers here that are with us. Let me see if I have all of these at the right size. Do those look readable? Maybe we'll make them a little bit larger for everybody to read. I think that that's better like that. Let me do the same here. Okay, I think that that's better. With that said, let's begin with 197. Now there's 4 in this one to read. I think we'll read them together if that's okay. And Darcy, would you like to start with 197 and read through 200?
Sure. Never feeling enmity towards those who bear us malice. How wonderful our lives become free from enemies, even in the midst of those most inimical. Never harming those who would hurt us. How wonderful our lives become, never harmed even in the midst of harmful people. Never feeling selfish even in the midst of selfish people. How wonderful our lives become, free of possessiveness even in the midst of those who would take everything. Never possessing anything, how wonderful our lives become, nourished by the same food of joy as the gods of light.
Oh, that's beautiful. And Nima, would you like to read 197 through 200?
Happy indeed we live, friendly amidst the hostile. Amidst hostile men we dwell free from hatred. Happily indeed we live, friendly amidst what a tongue twister. Amidst the afflicted by craving, amidst afflicted men we dwell free from affliction. Happily indeed we live, free from avarice, amidst the
Avarice.
Amidst the avarice men, we dwell free from avarice. Happily,
and one more.
We live, yeah. We who possess nothing, feeders on joy we shall be, like the radiant gods.
Great job. Yeah, the vocabulary is tough on this week's reading. And Chantal, would you like to read 197 to 200?
Sure, Tarpa. So happily we live without hate, among those with hate, among people who hate, we live without hate. Ah, so happily we live without misery among those in misery. Among people in misery, we live without misery. Ah, so happy we live without ambition. Among those with ambition, among people who are ambitious, we live without ambition. Ah, so happily we live, we who have no attachments, we shall feast on joy, as do the radiant gods.
Oh, you guys did a great job. So I think Gil Fronsdale's text is the clearest here. So basically what we're talking about here is, it reminds me of the Christian quote, to be in the world but not of the world. And so to live among people that are suffering in samsara and are afflicted by all the qualities that means, but yet to be able to live in that environment, but yet not be touched by it, and to be happy within it. I would say that this is easier said than done. As I awaken, I find that it still becomes quite a problem. Sometimes it seems like it gets a bit harder. When you begin to awaken more, you start to realize how those that are suffering in samsara, just how deeply the afflictions go. You start to, I think I noticed the afflictions more than I did when I was younger. In a sense, I always think about it like the Buddhist path is a path to mental health. And so for me, I notice how unhealthy mentally and emotionally others are. I notice it more and more. But nevertheless, I do believe I'm still happy within it. I do believe there's some truth to this. And some of the things they talk about, hatred and misery and ambition. Ambition's a strong one, isn't it? And how about the last one? Those without attachment. I love this line, feast on joy, huh? Oh, that's such a pretty line. They had it in here, the same food of joy as the gods. And here we had those feeders on joy. That's a nice way. That should be our byline for SPT. The SPT tradition, feeders on joy. People would definitely think we were a cult if we did that one. Well, I've joined this new group. I don't know much about them, but they're feeders on joy. Sounds like we're joy vampires or something. Darcy, would you like to read 201?
Avarice was the word I had to look up.
And avaricious.
Yes.
Avaricious was when I had to look up, yeah.
Victorious attract enemies, the conquered lie down in sorrow. But when you give up both victory and defeat, you will rest in happiness and peace.
I think there's some truth to that. Neil, would you like to read one? 201?
Victory begets enmity. The defeated dwell in pain. Happy, the peaceful live, discarding both victory and defeat.
That verse sounds very much to me like Old English language, begets, right? Yeah. And Chantal, would you like to read 201? I guess we're on 2 pages here.
Victory gives birth to hate, the defeated sleep in anguish.
And the next line on the next page here, giving up.
Giving up both victory and defeat, those who have attained peace sleep happily.
Very good. And I'm not sure if I should have defined what some of the language was in the last verses. Enmity is ill will or hate. Inimical is unfriendliness or hate. So most of those words were like that. Avarice is extreme greed, and avaricious is the quality of possessing extreme greed. I wanted to talk about something here. When we in this verse, when we talk about between victory and defeat are these qualities, this very much coincides with our teachings on the 8 worldly concerns that we did a while back. And the eight worldly concerns, or sometimes they call them the eight worldly dharmas, I'll just read it. It's representing our misguided samsaric attachments, goals, and motivations, which are abandoned on the Buddhist path. We abandon these worldly preoccupations after recognizing that although these qualities may bring temporary pleasure, they cannot bring ultimate satisfaction. The Buddha taught that the path to liberation lies between these sets of dichotomies. The eight worldly concerns are divided into four pairs of opposites. It's said that any Dharma activity performed with these intentions is not true Dharma. And the opposites are attachment to gain, aversion to loss, attachment to praise, aversion to blame, attachment to fame, aversion to significance, and attachment to pleasure, aversion to pain. So, let alone in this verse, just talking about winning and losing, but this is really the whole idea of these dichotomies. And of course, the Buddhist path is the middle way between these extremes of either side. I'll post this meme on our website, our social media, but I can't post it until after the next class, or everybody will get a sneak peek. So, and let's get back to this. I thought that would be interesting to everybody. And Nima, would you like to, oh, I'm on the wrong slide, sorry. Let me move to this one. Nima, would you like to read these two, 202 and 203?
Okay. There is no fire like desire, no provocation that can equal hate, no suffering like this heap of flesh, no happiness higher than peace. Hunger is the greatest affliction, samsara the greatest foe, but knowledge and true understanding of this, one can pass from sorrow to the highest joy.
Beautifully read. Oh, let me just double check. Okay, here we are, 202, 203. And Chantel, would you like to read 202 and 203?
There is no fire like lust and no crime like hatred. There is no ill like the aggregates of existence and no bliss higher than the peace of nirvana. Hunger is the worst disease, conditioned things the worst suffering. Knowing this as it really is, the wise realize nirvana, the highest bliss.
Beautifully read, thank you. Neil, would you like to read 202 and 203?
There is no fire like lust, no misfortune like hate, no suffering like the aggregates, no happiness higher than peace. Hunger is the foremost illness. Sankaras, the most suffering. For one who knows this, as it really is, nirvana is the foremost happiness.
Oh, thank you very much. So there was an expression here. I'd like to explain to everybody what the aggregates are. So there is no fire like lust. Oh, yes. No misfortune like hatred. No suffering like the aggregates. And no happiness higher than peace. So here we have. This is from Tibetan Buddhist Essentials. And maybe I can blow it up a little bit for everybody. So the five aggregates represent these are the five primary aspects of sentient life. So we have form, feeling, discrimination, compound factors, and consciousness. Form is our physical body, and even non-sentient life can fit into this category. It's our physical body, and often times they include our experience, our sense experiences. Feeling is not emotion, but our initial feeling when our eye comes upon something, and it's the experience of something that's pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. It's also just what catches the eye as the mind scans a room for interesting things. You know, our mind is always scanning our environment, looking for something of interest or meaning or something of desire. And so this is done almost subconsciously, and the mind keeps moving until it finds that pleasant or desirable object. Discrimination in number 3 is the mental factor that allows mind to discern or identify objects and their attributes. So once your eye has focused on that pleasant object, then discernment comes in, and it discerns what object that is and all the information about it. Compound factors is a bit of a complicated term. A lot of times they'll call it volitional factors, but basically it's used as a catch-all for all the other things that don't fit into these other categories. But most of the time, this has to do with our volitional action and karma, meaning mental and karmic imprints and traits that we have upon ourselves. And then the last one, consciousness, is the consciousness that arises from our senses taking upon an object. The eye and what the eye sees, the ear and what the ear hears. Each one of those is considered a consciousness or a mind. So this is kind of like everyday kind of consciousness for going about your day, and includes cognition, things like that. So this is what they talk about. But this is a bit of a controversial teaching and term, because some people, and I learned this within my schooling, that the 5 aggregates was the makeup of a human being, that the human being was the 5 aggregates and nothing else. And now modern scholars are thinking that we got that teaching incorrect, and what it really applies to is the Buddha's teaching on no self or no soul. And the Buddha saying that within each one of these categories, there is no soul. And he uses the teachings to try to show people that these things where we primarily think of ourselves, which are these 5, right? We primarily think that these are the things that make up us. If you see a soul inside each one of these things, you're mistaken, that there isn't any essential aspect in any one of these qualities that is a soul. So I try not to make that too complex. Okay. This is also going to come in handy, number 4 here, for our next verse. And Chantel, would you like to read this one, 204?
Health is the greatest possession, contentment the greatest wealth. A loving friend is the best of kin, and the greatest joy is passing from sorrow.
Thank you. Please? Did somebody want to ask a question? Okay. Darcy, 204, okay. Darcy, could you read 204?
Health is the most precious gain.
No, that was me, Tarpa. I thought I had to read the next one also.
One second. It was just 204. No problem there. Okay, Darcy, 204, please.
Health is the most precious gain, and contentment the greatest wealth. A trustworthy person is the best kinsman. Nirvana, the highest bliss.
Thank you. And Nima, 204, right here.
Health is the foremost possession, contentment the foremost wealth, trust the foremost kinship, and nirvana the foremost happiness.
So this is lovely, right? They're talking about, health is health, and contentment and trust are these wonderful qualities. Trust is the foremost kinship. I thought that was a great line, though I think it reads better in a trustworthy person is the best kinsman. And then here we have in 204, a loving friend is the best kinsman. So it's interesting. Each one has a different take on that. And I don't think it's explained why. but nevertheless trusting in a person. And nirvana itself is the greatest of all happinesses. No one could argue with that. Neil, would you like to read 205?
Tasting the sweetness of solitude and savouring the tranquility, you drink the nectar of the Dharma, which frees you from fear and fidelity.
Thank you. I'm apologizing because I wanted to talk about the word sankharas, and I thought it was coming up, but I think I missed it. I think Neil read it last time. One second, I think it's here in 203. Just let me backtrack. Here it is in sankharas. So Neil was reading this one. Hunger is the foremost illness, sankharas the foremost suffering. For one who has known this, it really is nirvana. Sankharas are an interesting term, and it can mean quite a few different things. I made a note though. When I think about sankharas, I think about karmic or mental imprints, or sometimes they'll call them volitional formations, and are a form of conditioned phenomena. So the idea is that when we do an action and we get a karmic imprint from that action, a residue left over from the experience that we usually experience as emotion, it conditions our existence. These are called volitional formations because they are a form of a result of an intentional action, karma, and because they are causes for the arising of future volitional actions. So we also talked about this in a teaching we had a while back on mental factors and mind and mental factors. And mental factors are oftentimes they're subconscious aspects of our mind, but they have to do with there's got to be a great word for this. Our aptitude or they have a lot to do with our perspective of life and our view. These mental factors are karmic imprints, but there are our beliefs, our values, our likes and dislikes. It's all the things that are behind the scenes that are influencing the way we interpret and we project our reality. So all your views about things, your cultural views, the conditioning that we were all brought up with as children, the things you learn at school, they all shape our understanding and our presentation of reality. Maybe it's the best way to say it. That's what mental factors are. And that presentation of the world, the way we see the world, this is the idea of sankharas. And so that's the fourth of the that's the fourth of the five aggregates here, compounding factors. These are some sankharas, right? And so let alone when you have an experience, does it change the way you think about life, you experience life? But it also changes the way you'll interact with life in the future, the way you project life. So it's kind of like putting on a pair of rosy colored glasses, you know? You put on the glasses, you're never really seeing reality, right? They're always filtered through that rosy glass. And so those glasses, those rosy glasses for you are your beliefs, are your values. They're your likes and dislikes. They're your conditioning that you experience, that you learned and experienced throughout life. And because of those rosy glasses, when new experiences come, you don't really see the experience for exactly what it is. You see it through rose-colored glasses, as the old expression talks about. So that's what we're talking about here in compound factors. I just wanted to try to clarify that for everybody. Wrong one. Let's see if I can get this together. Where am I? I'm drowning in technology. I think we're here on 205. Am I correct? Okay, Neil, would you like to read one? 205?
Tasting the flavour of solitude and peace, one becomes free of distress and evil, drinking the flavour of the Dharma joy.
Drinking the flavor of dharmic joy. Oh, I like that. Darcy, would you like to read? 203. Okay, number 203.
Hunger is the worst disease, conditioned things the worst suffering. Knowing this as it really is, the wise realize nirvana, the highest bliss.
Oh, yeah. Chantel, would you like to read 203? 20.
5.
Thank you. Yes.
Tasting the flavor of solitude and peace, one becomes free of distress and evil, drinking the flavor of Dharma joy.
I love that Dharma joy. If you remember, they explained in the text when they use the word solitude, it comes from a Pali word that doesn't necessarily just pertain to going away out in the woods and meditating. It also means a solitude or a peace within your own mind when you're in the company of others. So when we talk about solitude, it could just mean, being at home and enjoying yourself. But I think it means being away from the outrageous life that a lot of people live, right? A peace and solitude of your own. Thank you. And we're up here on 206. Nima, would you like to read 206?
How wonderful to see the saints. One always finds joy in their company, but with fools, it is a different story. Not to see them makes us happy.
Yeah. How about reading the next three? Nima.
Keeping company with fools will cause you nothing but grief. Fools are the worst of enemies. They will keep you suffering forever. Keep company with the trustworthy. They will make you happy like close family. Rely on the noble, the spiritual, the steady, the learned, the prudent, the wise. One wise enough to follow such beings is like the moon on the path of the stars.
Oh, that's pretty. And we have 206 here. Darcy, would you like to read this?
Good is it to see the noble ones. To live with them is ever blissful. One will always be happy by not encountering fools. Indeed, he who moves in the company of fools grieves for longing. Association with fools is ever painful, like partnership with an enemy. But association with the wise is happy, like meeting one's own kinsman. Therefore, follow the noble one who is steadfast, wise, learned, dutiful, and devout. One should follow only such a man who is truly good and discerning, even as the moon follows the path of the stars.
That's lovely. Chantal, would you like to read those last three?
It's good to see the noble ones. Their company is always a delight. Free from the sight of fools, one would constantly be happy. One who keeps company with fools will grieve for a long, long time. Living with fools is painful, as is living with foes. Living with the wise is delightful, like relatives gathered together. Therefore, you should follow a good, intelligent person who is wise, insightful, learned, committed to virtue, dutiful and noble, as the moon follows the path of the stars.
Oh, that's lovely. I think two terms escaped my translations. The word, I forgot to look up the word dutiful, which is willingly obedient out of a sense of duty or respect. Dutiful. I'm going to use that today in my conversations at the grocery store. And this one, of course, devout is deeply religious. We knew that one. Yeah, try to use dutiful. Try to squeeze dutiful in your conversations this fine day. And so, of course, what they're saying in the last three is they're saying Sangha is heaven, right? How beautiful it is to be around good people with good intentions, and how They talk about we've commented before on how they talk about in the Dhammapada as non-Buddhist practitioners are fools. And we were talking about how much we didn't like that terminology. I have a lot of friends that aren't Buddhist that are hardly fools. But in this case, I tried to really imagine not those nice non-Buddhists, but I tried to imagine like some of these real idiots, the way they go through life, whether it's the guys that make those jackass movies or others. I mean, some people are just live crazy lives, drinking and smashing cars and just doing all kinds of things. And so when I think about that, the point becomes very clear. It's like, yeah, do you ever have any friends like that that were just too wild? And, as you became adults, it was like you just couldn't hang with them anymore. And it's true. When you're around these kind of people that have no idea of how to live a proper life, life is miserable. I mean, there's moments of humor and fun, but it's miserable. And the opposite is true. Among Sangha, among wise people that have developed mental and emotional stability, it's just so easy to be with them, isn't it? When we come on here with our Sangha here, it's so easy to be with everyone. No one's contentious on our boards. No one argues. Everybody's interested in not offending others, being kind. Yeah, these three really came home for me with just the beauty of Sangha. And it's a bit of a short chapter this week. That's what we have. Does anybody have any questions, comments, or insights in today's class? How do we know who's wise and who is a fool? People can be tricky. You're right, Rick. And you know how you do it? You become skillful. We talk about with all the practices we do, everything that we work with, the secret is always to bring wisdom in. And with wisdom, bring skills in. And sometimes, we're just naive and we get taken advantage of. It reminds me of the monks in the monastery. They could be really virtuous, especially the younger monks, but they had to be so careful when they were going out in the world. They'd always have to be accompanied because they just could not spot a bad person at all. They were used to being around only wise other monks, well-behaved monks. So it comes with experience and it comes with skill. David?
Oh, it was just it's a trivial point. Dutiful is the New York pronunciation of that word. If you're in England, you've got to call it dutiful. Dutiful, not dutiful.
Dutiful.
That's the one, yes.
It sounds like one of those beautiful English words that didn't make it across the pond.
Oh, that's right.
And Chantal, I'm guessing this is a joke. She says, if you have the sensation of rolling your eyes all the time, chances are you among the fools. Yeah, I think so. I think so, Chantal. What did you think of this week's chapter? That was lovely, huh? Oh, I forgot I have to, yeah.
I thought the poetry of it was the nicest of that I've seen. Some of the phrases were just lovely.
Thanks for saying that. I was trying to put into words what I thought, and I wasn't quite sure. But you were right about that. Some of those lines of joy were really stuck out to me. And because I'm so such a believer in joy as a object of our path, that whenever I see it pop up in the text, I love it because it seems to work in my practice. But wasn't that, yeah, the drinkers of joy.
Especially
Jennifer?
verse 204. 204 was really beautiful too.
Can you read it to us?
It's
Or do I have-
yeah, sure. No, it's the health is your greatest possession, contentment the greatest wealth, that verse.
And a trustworthy person, your best
Yes.
family.
Yeah, that was a great verse.
And nirvana is highest of all. Boy, you ain't kidding. Yeah. And to savor solitude and peace makes you pain-free and stainless. You drink in deeply the taste of bliss, of the truth. Yeah, you're right. The poetry was just really astounding on this one.
I think what was quite interesting was the idea of the five aggregates that you put up, and then realizing that, you know, obviously the soul is meant to be more impermanent, but five aggregates are the opposite to that. But then, you know, often people say that they're happy, you know, from their soul. You know, they've got happiness coming from their soul, and a joy coming from their soul. You know, so joyous, you know, from their soul. More people that are, you know, of other religions. When, well, I suppose Buddhism would be saying is that, you know, there's no soul. So, and that's something when you talk about the five aggregates, I was trying to, it sort of clicked. Yeah.
Yeah, and so briefly, the take of Buddhism is that all things are interdependent, and so there isn't any one single element that you would say is a human being. And some would say, well, modern times we have DNA, but that's not the same either, because DNA doesn't have an intelligence. It's more like a building block. But the idea is that a lot of religions posit there's just one absolute essential thing that's you, and when you die, it's you, and you get carried off to heaven or you get reborn. And Buddhism says, the Buddha said it doesn't work like that. He says everything is interdependent in human beings. And so the reason they make this distinction between soul and self is that soul is understood as this enduring quality, essential essence, but self is interdependent. The self arises from the body and mind continuum. And so they're all dependent on each other. So the Buddha isn't telling us we don't have a self. He's just trying to explain to us how it works. And he's saying within those five aggregates, you can't find a self within any of those. And there's no essential redeeming quality that is enduring quality that is always there, which we call a soul in the West, right? And so the Buddha isn't denying something. In my opinion, when you really understand what he's saying, he's doing the opposite. He's trying to share what amazing creatures we are, that we exist in so much of a more amazing way than we do, that we're much more ethereal than we think we are, right? And we're connected with everything around us and ourselves. To me, it's just astounding when you really get what the Buddha's saying. It's a very positive message. He's almost saying that you regular folks, you think so little of yourselves. The Buddha saw us as amazing, amazing creatures. Thank you, Sampo. Would anybody else like to share? I'm going to do a little wrap-up conclusion. Okay, let's get to it. We have an early class for a change. And so as always, I like to try to kind of wrap it up into some different language to get an idea of, just to add a little more information. Happy is it to be friendly amidst the hostile, afflicted and greedy, to be happy possessing nothing, or let's say little, existing purely on joy, on virtue. Yeah. On 202, we had this idea that there is no fire like lust, no misfortune like hate, no suffering like attachments to the aggregates, no happiness higher than peace or nirvana, nothing better than awakening. Hunger is the great affliction, samsara the greatest foe. Through understanding, we transcend both. And health is the greatest possession, contentment the greatest wealth, trust is the best friendship, and the greatest joy is awakening. Then from 206 to 208, which we just read, implies to keep friends that are virtue and abandon friends who are trouble. And when I was reading it, I was thinking, it sounded like a teacher talking to some young monks or something, you know. It sounds like advice we I think all parents give to kids, don't they? You're always like, hey, be around the good kids and stay away from those troublemaking kids. I think that's been something we've done from the beginning of time. Yeah. Okay, so I'd like everybody to remember that the Sutra teachings are meant as a practice instruction. So in order to get the greatest benefit, we need to engage fully with them, utilizing our 3 great objectives of study, contemplation, and meditation. Your work this week is to discover how these teachings apply to your daily life, transforming them from words on a page into living Dharma. Next week, we're going to be moving on to chapter 16 of the Dhammapada, which is called the deer. I thought it was a very strange topic or title. Buddha Rakkhita calls it affection, and Giden Shupo calls it pleasure. So I'm a little puzzled. I haven't read it yet, but that's going to be an interesting chapter to read. So let's end today's class with our altruistic affirmation. Excuse me. May all be healthy. May all be prosperous. May all be well. May all be present, free of past regret and future worry. May all abide in constant appreciations, which is the source of great joy and contentment. May all realize their true nature and the true nature of reality, which is awakening. I want to thank everybody for coming and our instructors for reading. Remember that the SBT community was created for one purpose and one purpose only, to support you, the practitioner. Please let us know if there's anything we can do to help you on your path to awakening. Bye-bye, everybody. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow
Thank
for
you.
our
Bye-bye, everyone.
skillful
Thank
living
you.
class
Bye-bye.
tomorrow.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.